All right, guys, question of the day today. Did Elon Musk just prevent World War III? Yeah, he did, and I'm going to explain to you how. Plus, there's a new gender identity that has recently been announced in the world. Of course, it happened on TikTok. That identity is trigender, which is the gender identity to describe being male and female and neither all at the exact same time, because why not? All that and more today on Candace Owens. So I want to talk to you guys about Western propaganda. It is something that fascinates me. There seems to be almost a departure in people's minds. They somehow feel that, oh, well, that kind of stuff happens in the East. It happens in China. Oh, it can happen in a communist nation. We know there's propaganda everywhere, but not here. We're somehow better. We're better. We're more free here. And it should just be so obvious by now that that is not the circumstance. I don't know what more evidence people need to recognize that we are existing under the exact same web of propaganda. Our media in lockstep on various different narratives like COVID, like the Ukrainian war, which I want to talk to you guys about following a tremendous update yesterday. But first and foremost, we had President Donald J. Trump announce that he is running for president in 2024. Nobody is surprised, of course, by that announcement. We knew it was coming. And you could sense that it was coming imminently because the press sort of started this peer pressure campaign to divide people in the GOP. Oh, DeSantis or Trump? Trump needs to step down. Trump, the entire midterms was lost because Trump just won't go away. And then Trump kind of defies them, stands up and says, guess what? I'm running, ha. And then in true Western propaganda form, they were in lockstep across the media, just insulting him. It was just petty. I mean, even in any of your memory, do you remember prior to Trump becoming president of the United States, the media not just allowing someone to announce that they were running? That used to just be a thing. You just announced wherever you wanted to. You could just walk outside of your house and say, hey, by the way, I'm running for president. And the media went, so-and-so just announced. And you could just do whatever you wanted to beyond that. You know, they don't really care too much about the actual announcement. But of course, it's Donald Trump. And so the media ran with all sorts of wild headlines instantly. In fact, while he was still on stage announcing that he was running, they were talking about how boring it was. Oh my gosh, even Fox News had to cut away from this boring announcement. Here were just a few of the headlines that ran. The NPR went with Donald Trump, who tried to overturn Biden's legitimate election, launches 2024 bid. That's totally not partisan at all. This also was a headline. Trump, twice impeached and under criminal investigation, launches 2024 campaign. Another one from our friends over at NBC. Trump, whose lies about the 2020 election inspired an insurrection, announces a third White House bid. Another one. Donald Trump, who was impeached twice, is running for president again. NPR even came out with a tweet breaking. Donald Trump, who tried to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and inspired a deadly riot at the Capitol in a desperate attempt to keep himself in power, has filed to run for president again. Okay, we get it, narrative. He's an evil monster. He's an evil monster that won't go away. He's an evil monster that has led to people dying on January 6th. And by people dying, we mean Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by a police officer, and we can't figure out why or any details of that case. But no, go with that. He's an evil, murderous dictator, and we're going to be in lockstep about that. And it's because we are trying to tell people the truth, not because we all seem to be operating and getting together in lockstep and seem to be getting a phone call almost from the CIA. It's like, hey, just say that Trump's a monster and go with that headline. That's what it feels like. It feels like Operation Mockingbird, which brings me to the next person that I want to talk about, which is President Zelensky. I have been vocal since the very beginning about the fact that he is a dirtbag. I can't make myself any clearer on that. That is the truth. President Zelensky is a dirtbag. Just when they'd abandoned the COVID narrative, just when they told you to forget about Afghanistan and us drawing out of Afghanistan in a very sloppy manner, they told you that suddenly you needed to trade in your BLM flags for Ukrainian flags. And President Zelensky became a hero overnight in the media. The same media, just a few short years prior, had told us that he is attached to oligarchs. We understand that Ukraine has been a laundromat. We understand that he quite literally used to be an actor, and he was funded by a man named Igor Kolomoisky, who is an oligarch. He funded him into power, Zelensky into power, and he has been doing the bidding of the West for a long time. He has ties via Igor Kolomoisky to Hunter Biden, okay? He is just not a good character. But the media basically said, here's the thing, you either get on Team Zelensky or we are going to smear you as a pro-Putin puppet. And I didn't take that bait because I don't care. Why would I care? It's so untrue. Candace, it must be accepting funds from Putin. That's actually what they were trying to allege in the press, is that somehow every person who was sober in their analysis of recognizing that, I don't know, something feels a little weird about this. There's a little weird about President Zelensky. We're being told he's a hero. He's very clearly got a stylist, right? He's wearing the same outfit almost every time you see him. Perfectly, the sleeves are rolled up. He's inviting the press and saying that he's fighting the good fight. It just feels like I'm watching a Netflix series, right? It feels like this is a Netflix series, and whoever is styling him believes that this is what he should wear. There's no reason, by the way, that Zelensky is not wearing a suit every day. He is not, in fact, fighting on the ground, but he wants you to feel like he is, right? While him and his wife make time for Vanity Fair, while they make time for Vogue, while they make time to meet with Sean Penn and take his Oscar and to record the moment, while they make time to give a speech as he did at the Grammys. But you're still supposed to feel that he's in the trenches, guys. He's just like you, which is why we should keep giving him billions of dollars. Well, just when I thought that it wasn't plausible that I could like Zelensky less, I said to myself, I actually can't like him less. He's the welfare queen of America, and I'm at the bottom here. He went ahead and unlocked another basement of ways for me to dislike him. It began yesterday with a tweet, okay? So Zelensky tweeted this yesterday. Had a call with the president of Poland, expressed condolences over the death of Polish citizens from Russian missile terror. We exchanged available information and are clarifying all the facts. All of Europe and the world must be fully protected from terrorist Russia. So in case you missed it yesterday, and what he is very heavily implying in this tweet, that there were some missiles that hit Polish territory, that hit Poland, and 2 Polish citizens are now dead. And he is basically confirming that that actually took place. And the world was on fire because obviously the implications of that would be severe. The implications are that Russia has now attacked Poland, a la World War II, Germany attacking Poland, which led to this world war, right? So he's basically saying this has happened. Everyone went completely crazy. And he didn't just limit it to saying that via a tweet. He also put out a video. And in this video, he said, quote, terror is not limited to our national borders. Russian missiles hit Poland to fire missiles at NATO territory. This is a Russian missile attack on collective security. This is a very significant escalation. We must act, okay? Very clearly, he is saying to you that it is time for NATO to get involved. Russia has now attacked NATO. They are goading NATO. Now, why does that tweet and that video make entirely no sense to me? Why, when I saw this, did I say, clearly this is a lie? I didn't even need to get into the trenches. I didn't even need to speak to people that were on the ground. The narrative defied common sense. Why? Well, first and foremost, because Putin is losing the war in Ukraine, right? Russia is losing the war in Ukraine. So if you're Vladimir Putin, unless you're completely crazy, right? Why on earth, while you're losing a battle in Ukraine, would you then say, okay, now let's go ahead and launch a war with the entire West? Now let's go attack Poland. Does that make any sense to you? Again, you don't necessarily need to be an expert here. You just need to have a little bit of a thinking faculty, a little bit of a critical thinking faculty. The second reason this makes no sense is that the entire purpose of the war, if you were paying attention to Vladimir Putin's speeches, was that he felt that NATO was encroaching on his territory, right? He did not want NATO, he did not want Ukraine to become a member of NATO. He was very clear in saying that for years, by the way, leading up to this conflict, especially, but for years, they've been very clear. Ukraine must remain neutral. They cannot join NATO. So he doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO, but he then decides, while he's losing a war in Ukraine, to attack NATO in Poland, which is a NATO member country. He would just do this. What sense does that make? The third reason why this defied logic for me was the idea that if Putin was completely off his rocker and decided that, you know what, it's not enough to just lose in Ukraine, I now want to start this beef with all of Europe and America, you think that's what he's going to do? He's just going to kill 2 farmers? That's the way that you invade Poland? You just kill 2 farmers on the border? yeah, no, that defies common sense. And we're just not allowed to have common sense because they control the narrative, right? I mean, Vanity Fair, Vogue, and Forbes, and Time Magazine twice now, and the Grammys have all told us that Zelensky is this wonderful character, and we all need to like them. So suspend your common sense for a minute and believe that he therefore must be telling the truth. But then something happened, and this is why I say Elon Musk may have just prevented World War III. You see, the reason that they have wanted control over Twitter and over Facebook via fact checkers, which are obviously just censors, right? These are censor lords. The reason is so that they can control the narrative. And a free internet, when we are free to converse and share information and we can all become citizen journalists, disempowers the mainstream journalists from being able to sell us a narrative, right? It very quickly can lead to their narrative falling apart. And so when Elon Musk took over Twitter, it became a way for us to once again exchange information freely, absent the quote unquote fact checkers telling us that this is not true and Zelensky is amazing. And what ended up happening was that a user on Twitter who happens to track Ukrainian weaponry used a photo of the debris to identify the weapon. Here is what that user tweeted. He tweeted, "So what crashed in the village of Poland today? With the cooperation of Blue Boy," that's another Twitter user, "we analyzed the available photos of fragments and came to a clear conclusion that they belong to the 48D6 motor of the 5V55 series missile of the S-300 AD system, a Ukrainian one." Oh, I'm sorry, what? You're saying this is a Ukrainian missile? He shows the fragments in the pictures, and he goes on to talk about how he understands that this would have been fired by Ukraine, and this tweet goes viral. Uh-oh, censor lords, what are you going to do? This guy is saying that this belongs to Ukraine. Are you going to try to put this genie back in the bottle? Are you going to just say, oh, it was a misunderstanding? Oh, yeah, guys, it's actually exactly what they did. Actually, this morning, waking up, now NBC and CNN and the Wall Street Journal are all admitting that actually, no, it was Ukraine. It was actually a Ukrainian missile that landed on Polish soil. And they're saying that it was by accident. Guys, so don't get too conspiratorial. It was just an accident. It was a mix-up. Zelensky didn't know that it was Ukrainian. He's only the president of Ukraine. How is he supposed to know that it was actually his defense team that fired that missile that landed in Polish territory? He wasn't trying to start World War III, except he was. That's the truth. Zelensky attempted to start World War III yesterday. He attempted the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, right? He essentially said, "Where are you, NATO? Where are you, America? Poland has been attacked. And we now must all be in allegiance and we must size up and attack Russia today. And also, I want more money because I'm still the welfare queen of America." He did that. He intentionally lied. He intentionally spread misinformation because he wanted the globe to react to his lies. And here's my personal take. He didn't act alone, right? We're supposed to believe that he acted alone, but no. Zelensky is just a bad faith actor, right? He's a real actor and a bad faith one. And I believe that what they attempted yesterday was a false flag attack. And I believe that he did this because he was instructed to do this. And I am wondering to what extent the West was in on this. To what extent perhaps even our own intelligence agencies were in lockstep saying, here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to convince the public that we now have a reason to join this effort, not just by proxy, by sending weaponry and sending billions of dollars of cash on hand to help Ukraine, but also giving them a moral and emotional reason to believe that we should be involved. So yes, that is what is happening. You have people in power that are attempting to legitimize starting World War III. And the only way we're going to prevent it is by continuing to share information and continuing to have the courage to call out Zelensky for what he is, right? I've said it once, I've said it twice, and I will keep saying it. He is a dirtbag. And I will also say the reason that I prefer a Vladimir Putin who doesn't pretend to be a nice guy. We know he's a villain. Vladimir Putin at least will look you in the face and say, here's what I want. I am a villain, right? Compared to Zelensky, who pretends to be a good guy, but is also a villain. These are two villains that are operating differently. Zelensky is doing a leftist strategy. Zelensky is pretending that he cares about LGBTQ rights and BLM and just wants to be in partnership with everybody, right? He's the James Corden character, right? Love, love, fun, fun. Everybody sing along to these tunes, but also secretly I yell at waiters on my own because that's how I am. I'm actually not a nice guy at all. He is selling us a pitch of goodness when in reality he is a bad person. I prefer someone like Putin who just says, I'm a bad guy. And I'm not even going to play the game of pretending that I'm something else. And that's all that I have to say about that. All right, I'd like to take a second to talk to you guys about Front Page Magazine. Founded by best-selling author David Horowitz, Front Page Magazine has spent over 2 decades combating the radical left's efforts to destroy America. Their 2 new podcasts, The Right Take with Mark Tapson and The Jason Hill Show, offer riveting interviews and insightful coverage of politics, culture, and current events. The Right Take with Mark Tapson offers fascinating, in-depth cultural commentary as well as interviews with well-known conservative thinkers. The Jason Hill Show offers thoughtful, deep dives into the ideologies of the radical left and interviews with renowned intellectuals. It takes a village to combat the radical left's efforts to destroy America. That's why, as a fan of my show, you should also check out these guys over at Front Page Magazine by visiting frontpagemag.com. And while you're there, support their cause by making a tax-deductible donation. Inside every progressive is a totalitarian screaming to get out, and no one understands that better than the team over at Front Page Magazine. Go check out frontpagemag.com today. Okay, now it's time for some topics du jour. Speaking of Western officials and politicians who like to launder money via various never-ending wars, who could forget Afghanistan? Our very sloppy exit from Afghanistan after decades fighting there and spending billions there. We'll never know where all of that money went. We do know some of it at least went to the Taliban, since we just decided to leave all of our weaponry and sheepishly walk away and say, oh, it's just time to bring the troops home. Okay, I'm sure, Biden. I'm sure you weren't just working on the next money laundering operation. So I want to update you guys on what's going on in Afghanistan today, because it is relevant. Obviously, the Taliban is in power, and they have now adopted full Sharia law in Afghanistan. The judges there are ordered by the Islamist group's leader to enforce stonings, floggings, and limb amputations. Afghanistan's supreme leader has ordered judges to fully enforce all aspects of Islamic law, which includes public executions and stonings. And the Taliban chief spokesman, his name is Zabihullah Mujahid, tweeted late on Sunday that the obligatory command came after the secretive leader met with a group of judges. So it basically said, listen, I know that we promised there would be a softer version of the harsh rule, but actually, no, we just want to bring it back, and we will be taking all of your rights and all of your freedoms if you do not comply. And this is an interesting topic for me, because I remember sitting down, and by the way, let me make it clear that I'm not endorsing Sharia law whatsoever. I just am bringing some interesting commentary. But I remember sitting down with a friend of mine. You might know him, you might follow him. His name was Zubi, and he grew up in Saudi Arabia. Even though he's an English citizen, he grew up in Saudi Arabia because of his father's job. And I was talking to him, trying to understand just what it's like living under a theocracy. And I was coming from a very Western angle, just saying, hey, Zubi, that's got to be crazy to see this kind of a thing. Like, what happens? The idea of someone being stoned or getting their arms cut off if they steal, what's that like? And I was so shocked in his response when he said, there's no crime. He said it's actually, what you're looking at is they are an extreme, right? To live under Sharia law is an extreme. He's like, but to live in the way that you guys live here in America is another kind of extreme. The way that you might feel walking down the streets of San Francisco is another kind of extreme, right? So we are complete opposite extremes, and neither of these is necessarily a solution. So he said it was essentially, he lived in a crimeless society. He said, because what it does to someone mentally, right? If you know that to steal, it's going to cost you your hands, you're just not going to steal. It's not even a thought, right? If you know that if you steal something, a judge is going to release you back onto the streets, a la what's happening in a lot of our inner city communities like Philadelphia, or New York City, where you can shoot somebody and potentially be released the same day, that inspires criminality. So I wanted to offer that commentary as food for thoughts, because I know now I always consider that when I read about these very extreme societies. Again, not an endorsement to that extremity, but also saying that we shouldn't be endorsing the other extremities, which are evident in our society today. There is no reason to pay Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile over $80 a month for wireless services when you can get the same service on the same network at Pure Talk for half the price. With Pure Talk, you can get talk, text, and data that's just as fast for just $30 a month. Those other guys are making you pay for thousands of retail stores that you don't go to, perks that you don't use, and massive profits to keep their shareholders happy. Pure Talk, on the other hand, wants to keep you happy, which is why they've invested a US-based customer service team. It's also why they give you so many more data options, because why would they charge you for data that you don't need? I like Pure Talk because I like supporting veteran-owned US-based companies that have my best interests at heart. It takes less than 10 minutes to make the switch, and you're going to save a ton of money. Now's your chance to show corporate America that you're done funding their leftist ideologies. Go to puretalk.com and enter code Owens to save 50% off your first month. That's puretalk.com, promo code Owens for 50% off your first month. I do also want to move into providing you guys an update on the story. You know, we covered, it's just such a bizarre story, and I think it's because they've been piecemealing information, and it's very rare for campus university students to die and for the police to be so tight-lipped about how they died. And they were describing it as a crime of passion, absent any details. And the reason why I find it very necessary for them to give us more details on how these students died at the University of Idaho is because a lot of parents are rightfully traumatized. You could only imagine what it is like to wake up knowing that your young child goes to university, that this could have been them, and you're not getting any information as to how all four of these children, these students, died on campus in their homes, and they're just calling it a crime of passion. They're not saying whether or not they've caught the individual that was behind this. Well, I was able to reach out to someone who was commenting on the story on Twitter, who does attend the university. I was able to confirm his identity. He is a student there, and he is friends with one of the victims. And he did not want to come on the show, obviously, because this is a tragedy, and he did not want to look like someone who was, you know, I guess, trampling over the friends and the family members of these victims. But he did provide me with a little more information, and we have since seen it reflected in the media, it seems today, that these university students, it was a stabbing, a very tragic stabbing. I'm still not sure who was behind the stabbing, but he did inform me that both people that are in sororities were told that the university police could not keep them safe at this time, that they were unwilling to say that they were safe. And so everybody has essentially up and left the university. And he is one of these people they've just left because they don't feel safe. And it's a very dark story. But yes, a person close to the investigation said that there was blood everywhere. On dailymail.com, they released blood that was actually leaking outside of the home. So it seems incredibly violent, dribbling down the side of the house, and just a tremendous, tremendous tragedy. They are describing it as a one-off type situation. So who knows what led to these events? Nothing could ever justify, obviously, what has happened here. We don't know if it was a crime of passion or a burglary gone wrong, but I promise to keep you guys up to date on the many possibilities that are happening, and we will continue to try to get more information as it becomes available. Next thing I want to talk to you guys about, switching gears here, is gender identity, because it's very important that you do your part and just try to keep up with all of the 37,000 genders that are out there today. And it's important that you do your part and try to keep up with them, because you don't want to be a bigot, and it would be bigoted for you not to understand that everybody can be everything at all times and at no times, including this young woman who is on TikTok, which I have always described as a platform for mental illness in its entirety. If you have a mental illness, you should have a TikTok. If you don't have a mental illness, maybe get off TikTok. That's just what I'm saying. I think it inspires it. But this young, I was almost going to say woman, crazy, Candace, crazy. This young he, she, thingy it did a video, and this is what the he, she, thingy it has to say. Take a listen.
You might have been surprised by my transgender pin that I put on this morning. I figured it's about time that I came out and talked about my gender identity. I am trigender, which means, like a triangle, I have 3 genders: male, female, and non-binary. And the difference between trigender and gender fluid is that I feel all 3 of these genders at the same time. All the time. It doesn't ever shift or change, or where I feel one gender more strongly than the other, like gender fluid tends to be. Also, I should recognize and accept that a lot of people don't see non-binary as a third gender. They see it as something completely separate from the binary of male and female. But for me, it's like a third gender. Or I guess you could call it a third identity. So how I feel gender-wise is like a man, like a woman, and as neither at the same time. I hope this clears things up, but let me know if you have any more questions. I'm happy to answer.
What I love is that at the end of that, she's like, I hope this clears things up. Like, no, obviously that cleared nothing up. Like, why would that clear anything up? I'm a man and I'm a woman and I'm neither at the exact same time. I hope this clears things up. Like, it's just complete lunacy. I mean, I am happy that these various illnesses are finding a home on TikTok. I did not mean that last statement I just said. I just said it. I don't know. Hope that clears things up. It's just like, this is split personality disorder, obviously. You know, it might even be equal parts schizophrenia. But what this is not is an actual gender, obviously. She's not a tri-gender. She's a girl that is looking for attention and is finding it on TikTok, and people are asking her more specific questions, which is giving her a dopamine hit and realizing that she's on some journey where people are maybe paying attention to her for the first time. You know what I mean? Which is an element of growing up, is trying to find your tribe and people that are looking for attention. And rather than being maybe the quiet kid who doesn't have a lot of school friends, you can now become a very well-liked person by being extreme on social media. And so that's what you're watching. That's what you're observing. You're observing a bunch of kids that probably are not comfortable in their own skin, that are trying to be cool in some regard by pretending to be tri-gender or whatever gender that it is. Well, one thing that's good for this girl is that potentially she will be able to find a home on the dating app Hinge, because Hinge has given itself a nice little woke update. The dating app, which you guys might be familiar with, has launched a relationship type feature that lets daters specify if they're looking for monogamous or polyamorous partners. Hinge has introduced a new feature this week called relationship type. It allows you to specify the type of commitment that you're looking for, and it has come as research has revealed that 5% of people are now in polyamorous relationships. So Michelle Parsons, she's the chief product officer over at Hinge, says, with the launch of relationship type, we are empowering users to openly share what kind of relationship they are looking for, and as a result, have a new way to know if someone's dating goals match theirs from the moment they look at their profile. Fair, totally fair. I think it's be nice to know if somebody just is into being a little bit promiscuous, a little slutty, and now you can have a filter that just says, I'm pretending that this is a relationship type, but in reality, I just want to sleep with a bunch of women. Then you have a bunch of women that are pretending that they're free and open to all different types, when in reality, they're just insecure and are commuting what they actually want to match the times. And the times are telling them that the best way to be empowered is by realizing that you don't need a man and that you're open to all different types of relationships, and that society is what is putting these constraints on you. And to really be loving and free and on ecstasy and Molly, you need to swipe your relationship type to available to everyone, and at the same time lose a little piece of your soul every time you go on one of these dates. And so now I'm glad that Hinge has provided that update so that you can freely give away your soul to whoever you want. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. All right, so if you're listening to this show, odds are that you put a lot of stock into how you raise your kids. You understand that your children look to you to define their values and their perspectives of the world. That's why it's extremely important that you have a will in place. My husband and I have a will, of course. We sat down years ago and had a discussion about who we would trust to raise our kids in the event that something happened to us. We were very careful to choose somebody who aligns with our values. If you're just starting out and you don't have thousands of dollars to spend on an attorney, but you want to make sure your savings, your belongings, and your family are all protected, you have to create your will at epicwill.com/Candace today. Epic Will makes estate planning incredibly easy and affordable. Just create your account, purchase the appropriate package, and answer a series of questions to populate your estate planning documents. That's it. Epic Will's early estate plans start at just $119, and you can save 10% when you use promo code Candace. Go to epicwill.com/Candace to save 10% on Epic Will's complete will package. That's epicwill.com/Candace. Okay, now it's time for my daily comment roundup. Let's jump right into your thoughts. First is from Grumpy6, that's the username, and it is regarding my episode that I did on MK Ultra. You guys seem to really like that. You guys basically told me in equal parts that this is amazing. I can't believe you're talking about it, which I thought was shocking because I thought it's literally declassified CIA docs. But I realized that people in the mainstream don't tend to talk about that. And then the other parts, you guys told me that I was probably going to get killed. So I just want to say officially, I am not suicidal. Candace Owens didn't kill herself. Please save that clip. Okay. First comment from Grumpy6. He says, my father was in the 82nd Airborne and said a bunch of CIA agents came to question them before they went to Korea. And he said they offered him a drink and they answered the questions and he had to leave because he had to go on guard duty. And while driving the Jeep, he said the telephone poles looked like they were melting and he wrecked the Jeep, causing him severe facial damage. They blamed it on him, but my father said somebody had doped him and it could have only been the CIA. For that was the only drink that he had drunk for 5 hours prior to the meeting. Your dad is definitely telling the truth. They notoriously experiment on people that are in the military. They view them as proprietary subjects, and this has gone on for beyond so many scandals that have happened in terms of military men and women being experimented on throughout the years. And it's why I was so morally opposed and repulsed by the idea that the healthiest people in the United States, being people that are in the United States military, had to submit themselves to the COVID vaccine or lose their job. That was more experimentation on people that serve the country. People that should be treated the best were actually being treated the worst, and that has actually always been the circumstance. And so, yeah, I'm very sad to hear that your father had severe facial damage, and it's even more incredible that they gaslit him and pretended that he just saw poles melting. But that is what we are dealing with. Next comment comes from Delana. She is commenting regarding the 10-year-old teacher who called the police. You'll recall there was a 10-year-old who got a tattoo and the police were called and the mother of that 10-year-old got arrested, as well as the person who administered the tattoo. Delana says, interesting conversation, Candace. Thank you. Children from indigenous tribes have worn tattoos for centuries. Then we have girls and women who have undergone female genital mutilation, predominantly in sub-Saharan Africa and Arab states. Female genital mutilation is also practiced in select countries in Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America. It is also practiced among migrant populations throughout Europe, North America, Australia, and New Zealand. The West frowns on these cultures and their ancestral heritage. Yet the narrative of the United States, parents are practicing genital modification on young children in relation to gender. Isn't that illegal? A form of depopulation, mentally engineered to biologically engineer? Yes, I'm glad that you brought up mental engineering because I think about that all the time, how the West, that we have this concept that we have a more wholesome culture and we engage in things that are just as egregious, but we wrap it up and make it sound pretty, right? So that's why I always say what's happening in terms of the transgender movement is a form of genital mutilation. And we say we frown upon cultures that take place in female genital mutilation, but we also are the only Western country that engages, outside of being obviously Jewish or Muslim, in just having the men get circumcised. Like they all get their penis circumcised in America right when they're born, and that doesn't take place anywhere else in Western society, not Canada, not down in South America. So it's very unique to American culture. I was shocked to learn that they don't do this in Europe and in the United Kingdom. They think that it's very weird that American men do this, but we justified it because, they told us that this was the clean thing to do, and that it would help your child further on from getting different types of penile cancers, and the facts and the statistics completely betray that narrative. So there are tons of ways in which we are hypocritical about the things that we're comfortable with and not comfortable with, and I'm glad that you're at least thinking about that and expanding your thoughts. That's what I'm here for. Next comment is regarding Pete Davidson dating Emily Ratajkowski. Ooh, I hope it's a conspiracy. Voice You Love writes, while I sympathize for what he went through at age 7, that being his father dying in a collapsed building trying to save people during the 9/11 attack, I kind of view his online portrayal similar to that of Greta Thunberg. Both are victims of the press and propagated as being more than what they really are. The fact of the matter is he was a drug addict for a very long time and definitely suffers from PTSD to this day. As for his dating scene, I view it like a charity case. None of the women he's dated honestly care about him. In fact, aside from Selena, they were just using him. I'm not sure who Selena is, but in my personal opinion, yeah, I do also feel that he is being used. There is something that is sad about him. Like I don't hate Pete Davidson. I don't strongly dislike Pete Davidson. I just don't like the media's portrayal and narrative of him. And it's very obvious to me that he does suffer from a lot of issues. Again, he went to rehab. I do have it. I do also know, I've been told at least, that he does still suffer from various addictions, and yet the media hides this while attacking other people because for whatever reason they just want him sort of platformed in a really bizarre way. I don't know where it comes from. And yes, it is tremendously sad what happened to his father during the 9/11 attack, and that might have a lot to do with the issues that he's facing today, but we don't resolve those issues by pretending that he's this perfect Prince Charming who just dates a lot of hot girls. So I think it's good that he's trying to at least take a step back from Saturday Night Live. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. Next question regarding Sean Penn giving Zelensky the Oscar. Kim writes, the fact that he had to pack that and carry it with him is crazy. It wasn't spur of the moment like he saw him admiring it or a story was told and a light bulb went off. Man's really thought that that thing has value and was needed. Yeah, it's a joke. You should laugh at the media puppeting him. You should laugh at the fact that he's throwing YouTube concerts in the subways of Ukraine and that he's getting, dressed up every single day and that so many A-list celebrities are flocking to him. And you should laugh because it's obvious that this is a part of a propagandist network and that we're being lied to. And we should stop laughing. However, when it comes to the idea that this man could inspire World War III, and that is where I draw the line. Next comment is regarding an earlier conversation that we had about potentially lowering the drinking age. I think that we should because everybody is drinking when they're 10. Not 10, but you know what I mean. I'm being hyperbolic. Unati writes, no, don't do it. I'm South African, and the one thing I commended Americans on was the way that they spaced out the drinking age, especially from the driving age. In my country, we have such high car accident rates, and I strongly believe that it's due to the fact that the drinking age is 18 as well as the driving age. I'm 19, and we were told by scientists that our brains aren't even fully developed, so why should we load such a delicate thing into the hands of underdeveloped people? We already have so much to figure out, and I don't think a change in American legislation considering alcohol age limits would help. I actually disagree because college campuses, everybody drinks. That's my point, is that it's not stopping. I have a girlfriend that got a DUI. She wasn't 21. She was drinking, and this happens over and over again. And again, if you should be allowed to go serve your military, you should at the very least be allowed to come back and have a glass of whiskey, my personal opinion. And by the way, I always say, don't become a victim to your own circumstances and believing that because that's happening in South Africa, that would be the same circumstance here. Because in European culture, there is no implied drinking age. You don't get carded when you're in Europe. And actually what I have found is that they seem to be a bit more mature about drinking in a weird way. I think because their parents sort of give them a glass of wine at dinner, and it doesn't seem like this shiny object of oh, I just can't wait until I can turn 21 and I can drink, which is kind of what happens. Then people go crazy. They seem to be able to deal with it better and be more mature about drinking. And now I'm saying that absent the facts. I guess I would have to check the car accident rates over in the United Kingdom. But you know what? I don't have to have any facts. I'm just answering the comments. I'm just giving you my feelings here. Okay, I want to take a moment to talk to you guys about ExpressVPN. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that ExpressVPN is the VPN that I trust to keep my data secure because it creates a secure encrypted tunnel between my device and the internet so that hackers can't steal my personal data, passwords, financial details, or more. In case you didn't know, hackers make serious cash selling personal information on the dark web, but ExpressVPN makes it easier than ever to keep your information safe. Just fire up the app, click one button, and you are instantly protected. Plus, ExpressVPN works on all of your devices so you can stay secure on the go. Use the VPN that I use to secure your online data today at expressvpn.com/Candace. Use my link at expressvpn.com/Candace to get 3 extra months free. That's expressvpn.com/Candace to get 3 months free. All right, guys, the next portion of the show is going to be available exclusively on Daily Wire Plus. I'm going to be talking about Northwest doing makeup tutorials on TikTok. So if you are not a member yet, go ahead and click the link in the description and subscribe right now.